Hello, YouTube. I'm up at the cabin. It's been like fucking 3 months since I've been up here. 2 of those months I've been working my ass off, and 1 month I was broke, so I started to, as the kids say, I started to stack some paper, and I took a few days off. It's not too bad today. If the sun would stay out, it'd be kind of nice, but right now it's fucking cloudy and windy. This is a book that I finished at home. The Closing of the Western Mind, The Rise of Faith and the Fall of Reason, Charles Freeman, 341 pages. I finished it in about 2 weeks, which, while I'm working these 12-hour shifts, that's pretty fucking fast. So it was kind of a good book. It runs through, some of the time in BCE. It runs through the Greek philosophers and the Greek mathematicians and Strabo and all those guys, the geographers. And then it starts in the era of Christianity. And this guy's point of the book is when Christianity started, science kind of came to a stop. And actually, the best Christian philosophers, they took a little bit of Plato and Aristotle and they wove it into their stuff, but their thing was to have faith and not question anything. If it wasn't for the Arabs, a lot of the writings of the Greeks would have completely disappeared. They saved that shit, not Europeans. So I got a few notes in here. Let's take a look. A lot of these books that I buy at King Book have newspaper clippings regarding the book. I don't know who sticks them in here. Is it the people that read them, or is it the people that work at King Book? I don't know, but I've run into that dozens of times. It also gives you a brief history of Jesus and the apostles, and when they wrote their shit, which was years later. There's just something here showing how far or how not far we've come. This is from 1960. This is the Chicago Congress of World Mission. In the years since World War II, more than 1 billion souls have passed into eternity, and more than half of those went to the torment of hellfire without even hearing of Jesus Christ, who he was or why he died on the cross of Calvary. So, that's in 1960. They're still thinking, that's fucking some medieval shit right there. The early Christians spent years, all through this whole book, they're arguing there was a guy named Arian, that maintained that Jesus was not the same as God because he came afterwards, and so he's not as great as God. And if I was a Christian, I think I would lean toward his viewpoint. But they fucking argued about it and argued about it. They had the Nicene Creed on all these fucking congresses, and there's just something about it. One only begotten Son of God, who before all ages and before all beginning, and before all conceivable time, and before all comprehensible substance, was begotten impassibly from God, through whom the ages were set up, and all things came into existence, begotten as the only begotten, sole from the sole Father, like to the Father who begot him, according to the Scriptures, and it's not according to the Scriptures, whose generation nobody understands except the Father who begot him. And it says, according to the Scriptures don't even hardly say anything about Mary being a virgin, and apparently they mentioned Jesus having brothers and sisters. Let me see if I can figure out who wrote that. That was the Fourth Creed of Serminium. I don't know who wrote it. Okay, here I have a spectacle. And my note here says, just imagine this spectacle. how far are we from this type of behavior? And the allure of churches was further enhanced by the practice of bringing martyrs' bones and other relics to them, or, as in the case of St. Peter's in Rome, of building churches over their supposed burial places. As the age of martyrs slipped into the past, so the martyrs themselves tightened their hold on the Christian imagination. In facing death, the martyrs had reached perfection, and their very bones became sacred, able to perform miracles. There was a rush to the Holy Land to find relics of the life of Jesus himself. By the end of the 4th century, the legend of Helena's finding of the true cross while on her pilgrimage to Jerusalem was fully established, and an improbably large number of churches around the Mediterranean claimed to have fragments of it. The opportune discovery of the bones of Saint Stephen, Christianity's first martyr, near Jerusalem in 415, aroused enormous enthusiasm, and they were paraded through North Africa and the Western Empire. Even Augustine, who had been skeptical of the power of relics, was won over on their arrival at Hippo. It was reported that they proclaimed themselves genuine through emitting a sweet smell. Most martyrs, of course, were local casualties of the 3rd and early 4th century persecutions, and they were buried in cemeteries outside the city walls. The translation of their bones to a church inside the city, thus breaking ancient taboos against burial within the city walls, was a highly significant moment in the definition of a Christian community. I have some more on the martyrs. Hopefully I've marked that page, because the gullibility of these people, the ascetics, this goes into, these people didn't fucking eat, they didn't clean, some of them self-castrated. I'm supposed to read something here, but I can't find it. Second paragraph. If we turn from the intense debates between theologians over doctrine to Christianity as it appeared on the ground, we find that the boundaries between Orthodox and heretic, and even between Christian and non-Christian, remained indistinct. The true commitment of Christians to their faith came with baptism, but many lingered for years as catechumens, in effect living in a no-man's land in which they would continue to attend pagan festivals. In North Africa, Augustine worked hard to quell the wine drinking and dancing that had always been part of the traditional festivals. But when he rebuked a crowd of catechumens in Bulla Regia in 411 who were enjoying a local celebration, he received the reply that they, as mere catechumens, did not have to avoid such festivities, unlike bishops and clergy. So they tried to live in both worlds. In fact, the pagans survived for many, many years. This does not go into North Germany or Sweden or Denmark or any of those, but it was hundreds of years before they converted. Okay. Original sin is argued over for hundreds of years. I remember my mother, she wasn't too happy that I wasn't having my kids baptized. There's a guy, Julian of Aclinum, who writes, and he says, "Babies, you say, carry the burden of another's sin, not any of their own. Explain to me, then, who this person is who sends the innocent to punishment. You answer, God. God, you say, the very one who commends his love to us, who has loved us and not spared his son, but handed him over to us. He judges us in this way. He persecutes newborn children. He hands over babies to eternal flame because of their bad wills. When he knows that they have not so much formed a will, good or bad, it would show a just and reasonable sense of propriety to treat you as beneath argument. You have come so far from religious feeling, from civilized standards, so far indeed from common sense, that you think your Lord capable of committing kinds of crimes which are hardly found among barbarian tribes." And this just says, the last recorded astronomical observation in the ancient Greek world was won by the Athenian philosopher Proclus in AD 475. Nearly 1100 years after the prediction of an eclipse by Thales in 585 BC, which traditionally marks the beginning of Greek science, it would be over 1,000 years until the publication of Copernicus in 1543 before these studies began to move forward again. And I've got LOL written down here. Let's see. Oh, they're talking about St. Thomas here. And it says, normally 2 miracles were required as evidence of God's power working through a potential saint. This is when they're trying to decide whether they're going to make him a saint or not. Those produced for Thomas were scarcely convincing. On his deathbed, it was said he had asked for herrings, unknown in the Italian seas. And sure enough, in the next load of fish produced by the local fishmonger, there were indeed herrings. As it transpired that the witness had never seen herrings before and could not be sure what they had seen, the case faltered. It was left to the Pope, John 22, to break the impasse. There are as many miracles as there are articles in the Summa. The Summa is a book that St. Thomas wrote. Thomas was duly acknowledged as a saint in July 1323. Thus the power of words and independent thinking were once again given a status they had almost lost. St. Thomas was not too bad. He was like towards the end, but he still said a bunch of dumbass shit. I got a bunch of chores to do around here. I'm working through them right now. I've got another finished book here. I'm going to do another little book report, and thank you for watching.